As of this year, 2022, Cyberpunk 2077 features 4 legendary Sandevistans to choose from, but a question I see a lot of people ask is, which is best? That's why today, I'm going to aim to answer that question by weighing up the pros and cons of each Sandevistan, testing each in the same combat scenario, and ultimately, giving you my ranking for each of the top 4 legendary Sandevistans in Cyberpunk 2077. If you don't know, the Sandevistan is one of the 3 operating systems your character can use in the game, with the other 2 being Cyberdex to hack enemies and objects, and Berserk, which boosts overall strength and resilience for a short time. The Sandevistan, on the other hand, is a time-slowing device, which can also significantly increase crit damage. At least, that's how you, the player, sees it. It's more like a speed boost from the perspective of others. Think of it as similar to the Quicksilver scenes from the X-Men movies, albeit at about 1% of his power. This type of OS in the game has been dragged into the limelight lately after being featured in the Cyberpunk Edgerunners series, and heavily used by the protagonist, David Martinez. Go check out my video on how to become just like him in-game if you're interested. Some base stats for all 4 here. Each legendary Sandevistan increases damage dealt by 15%. I won't be discussing this statistic since they're all the same here and there's not really a comparison to draw. Now that you know a bit more about the Sandevistan, it's time to go through them. We'll start with the weakest legendary Sandevistan, which by the way still has its own unique benefits, and work our way up to number 1. Let's get into it. In 4th place is the Militech Falcon Sandevistan Mark V. Now, I've placed this one at the bottom for several reasons. For starters, it requires a ridiculous 20 reflexes to even be able to use, which is the highest entry requirement of all 4, and for that heavy price, it doesn't even have the best stats. It slows time down to 30%, which is somewhat impressive, but each of the other 3 slow down time even further. After using it, you have to wait a whole minute to cool down, much longer than any other. The only winner here is the 20% crit chance it provides, which in my mind is 1 in every 5 hits. Each of these will provide an extra 20% bonus crit damage, which is definitely something, but again, for the 20 reflexes needed, not really worth it in my opinion. Now, the combat scenario I've chosen to test here is called The Lord Giveth and Taketh Away, and it involves stealing an SUV from a garage in Hayward. But we're not going to bother with that aspect and instead focus on just taking out the gang members at the start of the mission. I've basically chosen it because it's ideally situated right next to the Hayward Ripper Dogs, so we can switch out our Sandevistans at a quick win. So, let's head on in here and fight these guys, and yes, I'm starting with a shitty Lexington so as not to one-shot these guys immediately, though to be fair, I'm not actually one-shotting that much with the Satara shotgun or the Carnage pistol I've brought along either, as you'll see. Now, something that stands out to me with this Sandevistan, to be fair, is how freaking long it lasts once activated. I could cover a lot of ground in this time, and it really gave me a starting edge. The problem, of course, is the cooldown time. By the time I got around to activating the Sandevistan again, the fight was almost over. What's worse is I activated it too early, pretty much wasted its use, and then reset the timer for a whole nother minute. I was so thrown off by this that if it weren't for my second heart implant, I'd be dead. So I want to give a huge shout out to that Time Lord science right there. Overall, this Sandevistan is okay, and hell, in small combat scenarios where you can time using it perfectly, it may damn well be the best. However, for the price of the sheer attribute points required, the cooldown time is a huge caveat, and for that, it's sitting down at the bottom as the worst legendary Sandevistan on this list. Still, if you want it, you can buy it from one of the top 5 Ripperdocs who's situated in Wellsprings, Hayward, right next to where I currently am. Now, on to number 3. At number 3, we have the QianT Warpdancer Sandevistan. Now, perhaps you're wondering why I didn't rank this higher, and honestly, I'm just as surprised as you. On paper, it sounds brilliant. A legendary iconic, slowing time all the way to 10% and giving a huge 35% crit damage bonus. What's more, it only requires 18 reflexes, which is still kind of a tall order, although not quite as ridiculous as the Falcon. To be honest, I had a really bad time with this one. Firstly, it only lasts 8 seconds before initiating a 30-second cooldown, but I mean that's fine, right? It slows time to 10%, you can get loads done in that 8 seconds. Well, not really. Enemies barely move, sure, but I was actually really thrown off by this. I'm normally quite good at predicting where enemies will move in the time it takes me to shoot, which helps me line up lots of headshots. But here, the super slow down time movement sort of tricked my mind into thinking that they were now stood still, which was annoying as I'd shoot where they are rather than where they'll be in 10% of a fraction of a second. By the time I've become accustomed to this time slowdown, the Sandevistan has worn off, and over the next 30 seconds I'm reacclimatized to regular time, and the cycle repeats all over again. Another problem I ran into was activating the Sandevistan prior to going through a doorway, only to find my entire 8 seconds used up by the door opening at 1/10 of its normal speed. See, the thing is, you don't get 8 seconds of real time at 10% speed, which, come to think of it, would feel like a ridiculous 80 seconds to use, so that's fair. But the issue is, if you screw up with timings even by a second, it can waste entire uses of this thing. How did the assault on the garage end this time, I hear you ask? Well, I died. Guess Time Lord science only gets you so far. This Sandevistan really threw me, and yeah, you're probably wondering, Sam, why isn't this at the bottom of the list for fuck's sake? Well, I did seriously consider placing it there, but for 2 reasons. Firstly, you only need 18 reflexes, which is more fair to most players. And second, while 60 seconds cooldown on the Falcon has no workaround, I genuinely believe with a lot of practice, this Sandevistan could be an excellent tool, particularly in more open areas like the Badlands, where obstacles from the environment are less common and won't screw up your timings. Still, with the next 2 Sandevistans on this list both requiring only 15 reflexes, there aren't many reasons to pick these first 2 over them, to be honest. However, if you like this one and fancy trying it out, you can buy it from another of the top 5 Ripperdocs, who's situated in downtown city centre. Let's get on to number 2. For the comparatively cheap price of 15 reflexes, the Dynalar Mark IV slows time by 25% for 16 seconds, and honestly, I find this a much better balance than the Warpdancer. It may not come with as many crit bonuses as the first 2 Sandevistans, but evidently, that doesn't matter. I had time to take out the first 3 gang members and a security camera, which is the best I've managed to achieve in a single use. 25% is more than enough to slow time to, and negates a lot of those problems I had with doors and waiting for things. The recharge time did mean the fight had progressed a fair amount by the time I got to the second use, but it was then that I discovered something else. This is 16 seconds I'm getting of slowed time, which I suppose is 4 seconds in real time. It's just more fun. The pressure is off, every moment isn't precious. I even have time to scan the environment more for things like gas canisters, which is both useful and fun. The main issue, no. The only real issue I have with this one is the 30-second cooldown. Maybe it's because I chose a mid-length fight to test the Sandevistans on, but I find that fights like this generally last a little under 2 minutes, maybe a bit over. That's only giving you 2 to 4 uses of this thing per fight, and yes, whilst it can be good fun and a major game changer, I think a lot of people, myself included, tend towards quick hacking because, well, there's just more versatile ways to use it in a fight. Still, given some more time, I think I could really get to like this Sandevistan and nail down a really great method for using it in combat. Head over to Victor, the starting Ripperdoc, if you think this is the one for you. That being said, why bother with any other when you can have the QianT Sandevistan Mark IV? I've heard a lot of people recommend this one, and after conducting my very own scientific test, I can see just why. Its winning aspect is of course its cooldown time. 15 seconds is hugely less than any other on this list, and honestly, it's highly noticeable, and turns it from a power-up used a few times in combat to a constant aspect of your fighting style. Sure, I didn't quite have time to take out as many enemies as I did with the Dynalar, but it wasn't long at all before I was using the Sandevistan again. And then again! In fact, I was able to use it a whole 4 times in this fight, and could have even gone for more if I'd felt the need. I also set off a big explosion this time by accident, which was pretty damn awesome in slow-mo. I still kind of felt the time slowing threw off my ability to predict where to target a little, but that's again a problem player end and can easily be rectified with practice. Overall, I just felt that this time around the Sandevistan was a part of me, and I could really utilise it to its full potential rather than it being a power-up rarely used within the fight and only good as a starting boost or for emergencies. Let's just say I felt more like I was David Martinez with this Sandevistan than any other. Again, don't forget to check out my full video on this for more details on David's character build. There is one more drawback to acquiring this Sandevistan, and that is that it's only purchasable from fingers, which might be a problem for some players, seeing as if you punched him earlier on in the game, he won't sell to you anymore. If you're in this boat, I guess you can just take comfort in knowing that the Dynalar is still a beastly runner-up, though it will never quite be on par with the QianT Mark IV. Let me know in the comments down below what your favourite Sandevistan is from this list and whether you agree with my ranking. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, as it helps this channel out a great deal, but if you've really enjoyed what you've seen thus far and want to help out the channel even more, you might also consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. I'm Sam Bram, and I'll see you in another video.